Hello everyone, Rich here, back for another Minecraft ship video, and today is a look back at 2019, basically a review of all the ships and tutorials that I have built throughout 2019, kind of like what I did at the end of 2018. So we're going to look back at all the ships, hopefully in order that I did them, and I have got them all written down here on my list, and we're going to try and move around the shipyard and remember where they all are. So I'm going to start at the Oceanic here, which I did, I think. Well, it was January when I did this one. I think this is the last ship that I showed in the last review of in 2018. Because I just finished this one. I did a preview video of this ship in December, ready for its tutorial in January. So, yeah, here it is. So this is the Oceanic, of course. I don't know which one was actually built on video because they're both the same. One's a prototype, one is the actual build. But we'll look around the ship anyway. But yeah, it's not too bad. I have improved my hull designs in the time since this ship was built. I will admit that the stern was sort of a copy and paste from the Titanic, but reused and resculpted slightly, so I have improved a little bit there. Overall, the hull is a fairly simple design. I did sort of use this same hull as well for ship number 2, which was the Campania, but slightly, I can't remember if I shortened it or lengthened it for the Campania or Campania. But there were differences towards the middle of the ship anyway, because of the sloping, or not sloping, but the open promenade. But that's for in a moment anyway, and we'll do the Campania. But we'll look around the Oceanic here. And this is sort of another requested ship as well. This is what this one that was done, or requested many times throughout 2018 basically. But I finally got around to doing it, and I did the tutorial in January. And yeah, didn't think it was going too bad. I will admit though that 2019 has not been a particularly happy year in terms of viewerships, finances, and with the upcoming changes to the YouTube's the FTC, copper, whatever it is, all that bullshit. So yeah, it's been a sort of an up and down year, and yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah, there's the Oceanic. Not a bad looking ship. You look at it from all angles, it's not a bad looking vessel. I mean, there are better ones. I think, was it Cronus Darth or Creeper Craft City done an Oceanic as well? I can't remember which one of those two it was, but they did their variant. And that looks a lot better because they got more detail. They can put more detail in these things. They know where the detail goes, but mine is sort of a bog standard. Sort of, there you go. But yeah, the details on those ships are a lot better, but of course mine are just basic tutorials, and it allows the viewer to make changes wherever. So that's the Oceanic there, and I do have the Campania, and I can't remember where that was, so we're going to have to fly through some of the 2018 ships here. So there's the Majestic from February 2018 or January 2018, can't remember where. So I would do warps, but I've done a few test videos already with trying to use the warps going from ship to ship, and it caused more aggro, so I'm going to do all the flying around, and hopefully things won't be too much of a problem. So here's the Campania, or the Campania, and like I say, it's virtually a copy-paste of the hull, but slightly shortened, I think, and also the open area on the promenade, or the lower promenade anyway, so you've got an open section on the hull. But overall, it is a very similar looking ship silhouette-wise, although the funnels are a bit chunkier, and the superstructure is a little bit more lean as well. But overall, not a bad looking ship either. Now this one was a real pain in the ass to do because the deck plans I had were very vague in that there weren't many photographs or models of this ship to get a reference from. So I ended up going and copying the ship that was made for Transport Fever. So I had to take screenshots of that and try and get size comparisons and get all the deck details done. So yeah, the Transport Fever is sort of a transport tycoon game, which is very handy when it comes to looking at models and things, because it was very handy with the construction of this thing. Now this thing, I can't remember, I think this is about late January, February, I can't remember when I'd done this one. I really should have written the dates down as well, but it doesn't really matter, it's all through 2019 anyway. In the shadow of the Titanic over there. Well, Titanic's there, Olympic's there, but they were 2018 models. And so, yeah, the Campania, not a bad looking ship as well. I can't remember if is it actually Campania or Campania. I don't think it really matters. I don't think anyone really cares what it's called. But there were two ships in the class, so It could be either one of those two. So I don't know which one is actually the tutorial build and the prototype. Like the Oceanic, I'm not sure which one's which, but that's those two ships there. So that's the Campania done there. The next ship I did on my list was the Californian, and I can't remember where that one is. But it's over there in the distance. So I'm going to fly over to this area, and it's just next. I think it's next to the Oceanus. But I'm not quite sure. Oh, there it is. Is that it? No, there it is. That one there, the one in between, the little ship. That's the Californian there. Now this one was another, well, the first rebuild of 2019, basically. What I mean is I took an old tutorial and done it from scratch. So this is the first one, which is the Californian. Everyone knows the Californian from the Titanic disaster. The ship that stood still, apparently, or allegedly. I can't prove that. But there we go. And this isn't a bad build. I mean, there are deck plans and photographs available to build this one, but it's still not a great build in terms of the hull shape. The hull is a bit low, I think. But, you know, it's not too bad. I could have added a shear to it just to make the hull a bit bulkier, but it's something I left out at the time. I didn't add shears until later on, but there you go. So this is the Californian. It's still got all its labels on from when I did the tutorial, so yeah, it's a bit of a iffy one there. Now this is the prototype build, I think, because the tutorial build I actually deleted. I don't normally delete ships from maps, but I just deleted the tutorial build from the map just to create space, really, because it's only a small ship. And what I've done, I kept the this one, the prototype build, and I just moved it around so I can have space to work. And it's not a bad little build. Like I said, it's not brilliant. It's not one of my better builds, but you know, I'll probably come back to it in a couple of years' time and do it again, depending on how 2020 goes. You know, if the FTC and YouTube decide to well, dig me a grave and put me in it, then so be it. But I'm going to try and hang around as long as I can, and just hope 2020 will be a better year. But we'll see. And there we go. That's the Californian there, and it's like I say, it's a complete rebuild of my original tutorial, which I can't remember if I'd done it in 2014 or 2015. The Californian tutorial. I don't think it really matters anyway. May have been 2016. Who knows? But it wasn't a very good build then. But this one is a little bit better. It's basically just got more of a hull design to it. And we could look over the top as well. I did add more detail to it because I think the original one I built it in Minecraft Classic, so you don't really have a lot of detail to work with. But I thought I'd bring it into Minecraft proper and use the resources that were available, and it came out a lot better. So that's the Californian there. And which way do we go now? We've got to go back now. I would try and do them in order, but sometimes the ships are not in order. So I'll avoid the ship that's to the left, which is the Carpathia. That's another rebuild. I'll come back to that one in a bit. But we're going to go back now, back to the biggest ship the first big ship of 2019, which is the RMS, the SS, or the RMS Empress of Britain, which is a sort of a scaled down Queen Mary, if you like. It's not a bad looking ship, and I didn't really plan to do this one, but I found some deck plans which were very handy. Very handy. They were very well laid out, and I thought I'd do it. I've got hiccups now. So yeah, I thought I'd do this Empress of Britain, because like I said, the deck plans are very well laid out, and I thought I'd get on and have a go. Also, there were lots of photographs and models available to look at to get reference, and yeah, I thought I'd come up and do this one. I do apologise that propeller shafts have been removed on this one. That's because I was using the this must have been the prototype. I usually remove the propeller shafts to be able to label each thing when I'm doing the tutorial. So that's why that's slightly different. But we'll look around the stern anyway. And the stern on this one is much better than the Queen Mary one. And it's not perfect, but it's not too bad. And yeah, it wasn't a bad build, this one. Now, I do apologise that I did take my time with this build, or this tutorial, because I did start it 1 week. And I think it went on for about 3 to 4 weeks, because I was just sort of taking time out at the time. I had to say goodbye to a friend in that time, and I was feeling a bit down, so you know how it is. You know you're not going to see them again, so you do feel a bit down. So I did take a bit of time with this one. And yeah, it's not a happy build, but there you go. It's times how they are, but there we go. And the hull on this one is not brilliant. Well, the stern hull I thought was fine, but the bow hull, I did sort of cheat with this one. I did sort of just copy paste with it, and it did look a bit odd. If I just get the HUD out, if you look at the sections there, the last sort of 4 or 5 sections, I'll say virtually all the sections, are virtually just copy paste of each other, which is cheating a bit. But I could have flushed it out a bit better. But it's something I cheated with and didn't really put a lot of great effort into the bow hull on this one. But overall, it don't look too bad. But there are ships that are better out there. So this is the product. This is definitely the prototype. There's the tutorial build, and it does have a shadow error on it. So yeah, it does detract a little bit, but it's no big deal. Just knock a few blocks out and the shadow disappear temporarily. But that's the tutorial build. And enough said about that one. But I did take, like I said, I did take a few weeks to do the tutorial because my heart just wasn't in it at the time. And yeah, that's one to sort of forget about. So that was the Empress of Britain. I think there were 3 ships in the class. There was the Empress of Britain, which is this one. There's the Empress of Japan, and I think the third one was Empress of India. I don't know why I'm asking. There's no one here, but I think the last one was Empress of India. I'm not really sure, but they're all very similar in design. But hey ho, there we go. So that was those ones there. That's the Empress of Britain done there. I'm going to turn around again now, and we're going to go over to, not that one, we're going to go to the white ship over there, which is the Oceanus, which is another build which had been requested many times, and I absolutely hated this build. It wasn't a happy build at all. There's hardly any deck plans available, and very few photographs. Most of the photographs of this ship were of it sinking. Most of it with its arse in the air. So it wasn't a happy build trying to get this one done. And this is the prototype build, and that's the tutorial build because it hasn't got the blue stripe on it. But yeah, I didn't like doing this one at all. It's just an ugly ship, ugly hull, ugly superstructure. It's just nothing really attractive on it. And it kind of showed during the videos really. But yeah, the Oceanus, it had been requested many times, just mainly because it sank. It's famous for sinking on TV, and that's really all people were interested in. And like I say, it wasn't a happy build. This one is just, I did not have enthusiasm to do it, but I got through it, and that's what I come up with. So that was the Oceanus there. I didn't actually convert this to From the Depths, which is something unusual. A ship that is known for sinking, I didn't actually sink it. That's probably something I could do for 2020 perhaps. Yes, I shall have to invest a bit of time in sinking this one. It may cheer me up a bit. So yeah, that's Oceanus there. Like I say, it's an ugly ship, and I'm just glad I got through it. It stopped people requesting it when I built it, so that was a bit of bonus. But like I say, it was not a happy build. And I'm just glad to get over it. So that was the Oceanus there. Now the next one is another rebuild, which is not the Californian here. It's the Carpathia. Now this was a happy build. I actually enjoyed building this one. The RMS Carpathia. Now once again, I can't remember which one was the tutorial build, but we'll look at this one anyway. RMS Carpathia. Now this was another rebuild of my previous Carpathia. I think the original one I did in 2014. And that was an absolute pile of dog shite, if you know what I mean. So I'll come back and redone it for 2019, and I think it looks great. It's not brilliant, not perfect. There's still people out there who can do a much better job, but I think the one that I've done, it looks pretty good. I'm quite happy with this build, and it just comparing it to the old one, which I didn't actually do because I deleted the old one. But if I was to compare it to the old one, this is a million times better, and a much happier build because the deck plans are easily available for this thing. There's loads of photographs, there's loads of models to get reference from, and it is a real pleasure to build this one. I could have done the stern a bit better, but overall it's not as bad as it could have been. And like I say, it's a real enjoyable build, this one. And this is one that has been converted to From the Depths, and I have destroyed it a few times, I think. And yeah, it's a very attractive ship. There's a weird superstructure on this one. I mean, you got the bridge house up there. You got a forward superstructure and a stern superstructure for lifeboats and things. But Yeah, and of course, Carpathia, everyone knows the Carpathia is the rescue ship that picked up Titanic's passengers. I don't need to explain that one. Yeah, it's a very happy build, that one. And like I say, all these builds are on my channel. If you want to build all these ships, they're on my channel. Just look them up, and have a whale of a time trying to build them. And yeah, I think we'll have a quick look over the top of this one, because like I say, it's a much better build than my last one. So we'll go from the forecastle, and once again, there's no shear on this ship, so it's another flat hull. But it's not too bad. You can probably do a few updates to it and build the shear upwards. But yeah, it's not a bad build, this one. I did have to debate during I built this one, because the hull, not the hull, but the superstructure around the bridge area changed quite a bit during its career. So I had to make changes, or sort of decide which version I was going for. So the version that I went for is basically the version you're looking at. I don't know specifically what version it is, but it has much more bulky superstructure around the bridge wings. So that's basically the only changes that I could think of anyway, or can point out. So yeah, that is the Carpathia there. And I'm just going to do a quick jump cut while I cough a second, so bear with me. Okay, let's carry on now. So that was the Carpathia there. Now what was the next one on my list? It was the Nomadic and the Traffic. I nearly said the wrong things then. So the Nomadic, SS Nomadic and the SS Traffic. There's over here, which is behind the Fitzgerald. And here they are. So that's the Nomadic there, and in the distance behind the second Nomadic is the Traffic. So these are the two tender ships for the White Star Line. The Nomadic was the Titanic's tender. The Traffic, I don't know if that was the Titanic's tender or not. I think it was just a White Star tender. They served the same purpose anyway. But hey ho, there we go. So we'll start with the Nomadic. I can't get the bloody words out. So that's the Nomadic there. And this is another rebuild of a previous tutorial. And this is much smaller than my previous build. I did this to the scale of the rest of my ships, or to the same sort of dimensions. And it came out not too bad. Not brilliant, but it's an improvement over the previous one. But there are much better ones out there online. I didn't copy anyone's or anything like that. I just sort of done my own. As I said, I never copy anyone else's. I just do my own thing. But I just say there are better ones out there. And it's not a brilliant build, but it fills a gap, and it's not a bad looking little vessel. Not really much to say on it because it's so small, but yeah, it's not a bad little build. And when I built this one, I did do two at a time. So I did the Nomadic first, which is this one, and then we moved on to the SS Traffic, which is over here, which is very similar, virtually the same hull, but to the superstructure is very different. So it's got more open areas on the superstructure. Sort of open promenade, although you can't really call it a promenade, but there you go. So that's the Traffic there. Like I say, virtually a copy hull wise, and an interesting little vessel, that one as well. So there's not much to talk about with these little ships, but if you want the tutorials for these, once again, they are on my channel. These are complete tutorials as well. They're not split into parts. They are just one video for the whole ship because it is such a small vessel. And so there's the SS Traffic there, and the SS Nomadic there. Two very small ships, just sort of fillers really, but there you go. And I've got four of them, of course, because I've got two of each. Not sure which ones were the tutorial builds or which ones were the prototypes, but it doesn't really matter. But that's those four little vessels there. So the next ship on my list was the Kaiser Wilhelm de Grosse, which is this thing over here. Now this was a great build. I really enjoyed building this one. And once again, this is another rebuild. I think virtually all my ships now are rebuilds, apart from that one there. So this is another rebuild. I mean, the original one I did in 2014, I think, of the Kaiser Wilhelm de Grosse, and it was very, very plain. But this one, I put a lot of detail on this one. A completely different hull, and looking at deck plans, models, and things like that. This is a really good build. I really enjoyed building this one. Tutorial was a bit of a pain to do, but hey ho, there you go. We've got to take the bitter with the sweet. But overall, I really enjoyed building this one. It was my first ship as well that I added the shear to, which is where the bow slopes up. I don't add a stern shear because I'm a bit of a coward when it comes to that. But overall, I really enjoyed building this one. And it turned out quite nice as well. Got a nice build to do. I could have done a bit better on the stern, but I'm not going to complain there, let other people do that. And yeah, very happy little build. This was a real, like I said, the tutorial was a real pain to do because of all the vents and things. I mean, look at all these yellow sticky out bits and things, all these little pieces here and there. They're a real pain to do. I don't think I did many of them on the tutorial. No, I didn't. I think I left a lot of them out. But overall, I really like the ship. And it's just sort of a breath of fresh air compared to the old one. I mean, the old ship I did 5 or 6 years ago was just a rush job, as were most of my ships at the time. And yeah, this one was a hell of a lot better to do. It's just such a an attractive looking vessel. I mean, look at it from this angle, you know, from down here. It's a very nice looking ship. You got the sheer, you got the curved bridge. It's just a very, very, very nice looking ship. I can't really think of the word better to explain, to, you know, to a better word than nice. But yeah, I was very happy to do this one. And it wasn't requested at all, I don't think. So I just thought I'd get on and do it myself. It needed doing anyway, because the old one, like I said, was just a pile of excrement. But this one was a real nice build to do. This is the prototype here, and that is the tutorial one there. So that's the two ships side by side, and they don't look too bad. And there were 4 ships in the group as well. I can't remember the names of them all, but all I know is you got the Kaiser, Wilhelm, the Grosse, and the rest of them were sort of the same sort of thing. Maybe slightly different superstructure, slightly different size. But they were all virtually the same vessel, or virtually the same ship anyway, ship design. And yeah, I don't think they were too bad. I quite enjoyed building those two. And yeah, I like those ones. They're attractive ships. So enough about me belly aching over the 2 Kaisers. We move on to the next build, which is another rebuild. Pardon me. This is the Kaiser, not the Kaiser. This is the this is the Edmund Fitzgerald. And this one here is the prototype. The one over there is the tutorial. I built these in a group of 3 because I did 3 ship previews in the space of a day, which is the Kaiser over there, the Edmund Fitzgerald, and the grey ship there, which I've forgotten the name, Arundel Castle. That's the one. So here's the Edmund Fitzgerald. Like I say, it's another rebuild of one that I'd done about 4 or 5 years ago. I did the Edmund Fitzgerald, but it was just sort of another fail ship at the time. Now the thing I don't like about this one is the hull design. If you look at the hull front on, it does look a bit odd. Now I could have straightened that up a bit more, but you know, I was sort of restricted for time at the time, but no big deal. But the rest of the ship all looks fine. The only thing that is a real issue is the colour scheme. I could not get a definitive answer for the colour scheme or proper photographs. Well, there were photographs, but most of the photographs depicted the ship as just red, and I didn't really want to do that. Because I like to have a sort of a deficiency between, not deficiency, but a difference between the hull and the draft. So I went with orange. And some people complain, but I don't really give 2 shits, but there you go. So look along the hull of the ship. We've got all the cargo hatches, the crane, the guide rails and things like that. Not a bad looking vessel. Not much to talk about really, because it's just sort of a deck house at each end on a very, very long hull. Look at the black and yellow funnel there. Superstructure around the stern, and the stern itself, the big propeller. Apart from that, not really much to talk about. And this is another one that I've not put into From the Depths. I think sort of people complained the last time I'd done it. You know, they don't complain when the Titanic's being sunk, but the Edmund Fitzgerald, you know, it's a completely different story. Can't sink that one. But there we go. So that was the Edmund Fitzgerald there. Another, so I say, is a fairly happy build. This one. The deck plans are easily available, photographs easily available of models and things like that. So if you want to have a go at doing it yourself, then by all means, it's a fairly simple build to do. Just sort of a sausage with 2 things on the end, if you think about it. But there we go. That's the Edmund Fitzgerald. And the next ship that I did in the group was the Arundel Castle. This one here. Now this was my favourite of the year, I think. This is sort of a simple ship design. And I was sort of happy doing it. Now, I will admit, this is sort of a half and half rebuild. Now, I did originally build the RMS Windsor Castle, which is the sister ship to the Arundel Castle, but I did the 2-funnelled version. This is sort of back 3 or 4 years ago, so I thought I'd redo the build of this one. And once again, I found deck plans. I wasn't intending to do this one, but I found a set of deck plans, and they are brilliant. Everything was laid out, all the deck houses, all the structure was all laid out, and the deck plans are brilliant. So I thought I'd get on and do a build of this ship, and it turned out great. I was really happy doing this build, and I think it looks great. It's a simple 4-stacker, and it caught a lot of people out as well. When I did the preview video with the Edmund Fitzgerald, everyone was more interested in what this ship was. So yeah, it caught a lot of people out, I think. But I was happy doing this one. I really enjoyed doing this build. Like I say, not brilliant in terms of hull shape, but it's just one of those sort of ships that sort of gels when you put it together. Everything just fell into place. When you're using deck plans, which are as well laid out as these ones were, then everything just falls into place. You just draw the lines, build the lines, and everything just lines up, and it's brilliant. I really enjoyed doing this build. Like I said, a very simple yet attractive ship. And you look at just look at the superstructure. Everything's all laid out fine, and it was a real labour of love. And once again, it's another ship with a very basic shear. The bow slopes upwards. And I think it was the first ship I'd done using the end rods as pillars. Now, it works on some ships. So these end rods here, these things here, they do work on some ships, but some they don't. But on this ship, they look really good. So the end rods did their job here. Now, I will admit they do cause lighting issues because, of course, they glow. So when you're looking at it in the dark, they do sort of add a bit of extra light which you don't need, but it's no big deal. But that's the Arundel Castle there, and that's the tutorial build there. Once again, another shadow glitch on it, but I can't really help that. But like I said, that was a real happy ship to do, and if I had more ships like that, I'll be even more happy. Like I say, it's just something that fell together brilliantly, and I was really happy doing it. So that's the Arundel Castle there, and then we move on to the big ships now. We've got the SS United States. Now this once again is another rebuild, but once again I upped the scale, used proper deck plans as well, and this is my third attempt at the SS United States as well. I did one in 2012, I did another in 2014, and then finally I did this one 2019, and this is I've actually built this side by side with my old ship as well, the old SS United States, and this thing just towered over it. I mean, this thing is all proportions right, and compared to the old ship, it's just miles better. Now I can't remember which one's the actual prototype. I think it may be this one. But yeah, another happy build. This one. The tutorial itself was a bit awkward because it's such a big build, a big ship. But overall, it's not a bad build to do. And once again, it's got the shear again, a subtle shear. And yeah, another really impressive build in my eyes. Anyway, I was really happy doing it. Really happy when this one was done. It just looked all fine and mighty. And yeah, I think it's another good-looking ship. And like I say, it just towered over my original build, and it just looked the business. Now, what's one thing I will say, that the forward superstructure is sort of an aggressive look. If you look at the superstructure forward on, it really sort of gives that sort of really aggressive look. I don't know what it is about it, but it just sort of stands out. Looking at the front superstructure around the bridge wings and things like that, just something that stands out. Something that's sort of unique with this ship. I know the SS American Star had similar superstructure, but this thing is sort of up to that scale, if you know what I mean. And it just looks the business. And it's another ship that I've not converted to From the Depths yet. There's something else I could do for 2020, and we shall see. So that is the SS United States. The thing that I do dislike of this ship is the green deck. It doesn't look very good on it, but can't really be helped on that department. I just went for accuracy. I originally built this with wood decking, but I know people will go and sort of complain that it wasn't accurate enough, so I just sort of had to change it to the green before I did the preview video. And it's a thing. And the stern is also quite nice as well. I like the stern design. The hull design on the stern, I think, is a lot better. Well, it's as good as it's going to get really for this ship. But There's another ship that was a pleasure to build. A pain in the ass, but a pleasure nonetheless. So that's the SS United States. Of course, we've got both of them there. And yeah, another happy build. So we move on now to the next build, which is over here. Now this is probably the favourite of the big ships, if you know what I mean. I mean, this is another rebuild, and I sort of went to town on this one because it's another rebuild of a previous ship. I did the QE2 back in 2013. Now that was the first tutorial I actually did recording with my voice rather than just text, because most of my tutorials up to that point were just text and not very well explained. So the QE2 back in 2013 was the first me talking videos, but that's been deleted since then. I have rebuilt the QE2 and this is what I've come up with, and I absolutely love this build. It was a bit of a pain to build originally because the deck plan sort of differed in scale, but you know, once it all come together, it was a really great build, and I was happy when this thing all come together. And of course, I've got both of them there. This is the prototype build, and that's the tutorial build there. But yeah, it's another labour of love. This one, it just looks amazing in my opinion. You know, it stands out. It's bulky superstructure. I went for the late edition of the ship as well. The 2013 one was sort of launch spec, whereas this one is sort of late in the career with the much larger superstructure on the top, the bigger funnel. Basically a reconfiguration of the structure of the ship. But overall, I think it looks amazing. That's my opinion. I don't care what anyone else thinks. I just love this ship, and it's something to get orgasmic about, I suppose. And also, I've put a lot more care into the stern superstructure as well, where the deck slope down and the superstructure curves inwards. I didn't add the pools, the swimming pools, because they're a pain in the ass to do. But overall, you can sort of guess what it is anyway. You know, just look at some deck plans or some photographs, you'll know where the swimming pools go. But yeah, I was really happy building this one. And a lot of people have built it as well, so there we go. That's that build there, and I appreciate all the views that I get. Although views are dwindling, but I do appreciate the views that I do get. Keeps me going. And yeah, this is probably, like I said, it's my favourite of the big builds. And there are some big builds coming up, but there we go. So that's the QE2, the Queen Elizabeth II. Now I did get a lot of comments during this tutorial as well about what was going on in front of these two ships. Basically that big build up there. Yes, that big thing there. Now this was a build that I started, but I didn't actually get around to finishing. Now this is not a ship, as you can tell. It was actually a Formula 1 car. But I haven't actually got any further than it. Now the car that I chose, of course, is namesake. The origins of my channel name, the Richlarrousse. It is a Richlarrousse LH94 from the 1994 Formula 1 season. But I have not got further than building the floor pan, the rear wing, the front wing, and some of the monocoque. But yeah, it's something that I'll probably end up deleting because I got a bit carried away building it. It just ended up being too bloody big. So like I say, it's my namesake, the Richlarrousse, but it will not see the light of day probably. But anyway, there's the two QE2s. They look amazing both side by side. And like I say, these are a real labour of love. Now, we'll do a flyover of the superstructure. Like I say, this thing has got the late spec superstructure. Look over the forecastle with all the detail there. And the crane detail, I think, was a bit odd as well, because I did sort of make a mix and match of the cranes, because it's got 4 cranes, although I don't think the ship actually had 4 cranes. I think they're sort of they moved the cranes about during the ship's career. Sort of they removed some and replaced some, and hey, there you go. So there we have it. Anyway, we'll look over the superstructure. We've got all the extra cabins and things like that. All the spheres, which I call testicles, all those big balls there. So like I say, got all the cabins on the top here. Got the big funnel there. Now, one thing I will say about building a modern ship like the QE2 is, well, I say it's not really modern, is it? But say a ship like the QE2, it's the funnel design. They're a real bastard to build, and when you're trying to do a tutorial on a funnel of that design, it is a real pain in the ass to do. But hey ho, there we go. So that is the QE2. And we shall move on now to our next build, which I can't remember what it is. It is the Great Eastern. There's a build for you, the SS Great Eastern. We're going to fly over into the distance now. And oh, there's another build as well, which I haven't reviewed. It's the little tug, the Cowshot tug. Now this is another tutorial build. I did put a question out or a poll whether people wanted me to do more tugs and things. It was sort of a yes and no sort of thing. So I did this tutorial, and I didn't think about doing any more. But that's the Cowshot tug. You know, a neat little build that is. It's just sort of a filler really between doing builds. So there's the little tug. And it still exists, the Cowshot tug, although its future is a bit in jeopardy because nobody knows what's going to happen to it in the future, because it's just sort of laid up in Southampton at the moment, not really doing anything, just rusting away really. And I have a feeling that's just going to be turned into scrap in the next year or two, but there we go. The Cowshot lightship though has been moved. That's been taken away by truck from Southampton port to a museum somewhere. I did read the article, but I have not, or I cannot remember where it was taken to. But hey ho, there we go. If you want to look at the Daily Echo and find out, and by all means, over there are the two builds that will be coming up in 2020, if YouTube lets me. And what we're going to do is fly over into the distance over here, because I cannot remember where exactly I left it. And it should be over here somewhere, the SS Great Eastern. Where the hell is it? I remember building it, but where the hell did I leave it? Oh, is that it? No. There it is. There's the Great Eastern. Now this was a bastard build, this one was. I remember Hayden asking me to build this one, and I eventually got round to doing it. The SS Great Eastern. And it's an attractive ship. I did enjoy building it, but those bastard sails, they, you know, when it came to doing the tutorial for those sails, I just sort of lost faith in life. And yeah, I'm not a sail ship designer. Like I say, I did a couple of sails on the tutorial, which is over there. There's the tutorial build. The sails I just sort of gave up on, but there's the prototype build anyway. And there's a lot of trial and error with this one. So I did the hull of the ship, and when it came to doing the paddle wheels, I sort of had a bit of trouble. So it's sort of practice builds with the wheels, but overall the paddle wheels did it really attractive. I couldn't do the cowling very well because the cowling is meant to be sort of open, but I couldn't do that very well, so I just sort of left them blank. But the wheels themselves look pretty good. Up close they look a bit shit, but when you look at the wheels from a distance they do look pretty good. And it was sort of, doing this build was a labour of love, but the tutorial just sort of killed me because of the sails. But overall it's not a bad looking ship, you know. I like the hull on it. The hull's not brilliant, but I do like the hull. It's an interesting build. And like I say, it was a sort of a labour of love. The tutorial wasn't though. I hated that one. And so there we go. There's the Great Eastern. There's not a lot on this ship. I mean, apart from the hull, sails, funnels, and wheels, and 5 masts, there's not a lot of superstructure on this thing. It's basically just sort of deck houses, really, in between all the funnels and the sails. But you know, it's not a bad-looking vessel nonetheless. You know, it's sort of the first of its kind, if you know what I mean. The first sort of proper steamship. And yeah, it doesn't look too bad. There weren't many deck plans depicting the superstructure or the deck houses, so I had to sort of use models as reference for the deck houses and things. But overall, it's not too bad. I mean, it could be improved. I know some people who build my ships, they do add extra bits to them, which is fine. That's what I do these for. I give you the guide, you do the extras. And yeah, that's the Great Eastern there. And I will admit, I'm not doing any more sail ships. I hate sail ships. I can build the ships, but it's not the sails. I don't like doing the sails, so there's something to consider in the future perhaps, but I'm not going to do any more sail ships in the near future anyway. But it does look pretty good. I mean, like I say, the wheels on the ship, the paddle wheels, they do look great. And yeah, it's something that looks quite good. That's really all I can talk about with the Great Eastern. So that's the prototype version there. As you can see, it got all the sails and things on there. This is the tutorial build with a few sails missing, but overall that's as good as it's going to get. Now people keep asking me what this hull here is. Now this is actually the Great Eastern hull. I've actually saved the skeleton because the skeleton on its own looks pretty good. I like the skeleton of this one, so I thought I'd keep it, and also kept the wheels as well, the basic wheels. So that's what that is there. That's the Great Eastern corpse basically, and yeah, I thought I'd keep it and use it as reference really. But that is that. And the next ship, which is not a tutorial, or well, it was a sort of a tutorial, but that's sort of all the big ships done. The next build over here is, those are two tugs. Those are just copies of the cow shop. But this build over here is actually one that I did for the ship building tutorial, which is basically the half-assed shipbuilding guide. So this is sort of, I did the Titanic basically, and it's basically the outline, and it sort of gives people the idea, or a good idea, on how to build ships using deck plans. This is all this was, and I have not got around to doing any more on it, but I don't plan to do any more. But that was what that was there. If you can look it up, it's basically the half-assed guide to shipbuilding. That's what the video was called, and it's basically all of this. So yeah, that is what that was there. So not much more to talk about there. Now that is pretty much it for all the builds of 2019, at least tutorial wise. Now for 2020, I do know we have more ships available. Now, I have got 5 already done, and I don't really feel the need to go and review them again, but we'll go and look at them anyway. We know what they are. So there's the first one that will be for 2020, is the Britannic, which is that one there. Like I say, it's basically the old 2018 Titanic tutorial with a new hull and some reconfigured superstructure. Now, I would admit, when I built this one, I did have to redesign some of the superstructure around the bow and stern, but not a big deal. We can just go ahead and do that one. So that would probably be the first build of 2020. And of course, we've got here the Lusitania, which would be the second build of 2020. So that's those two ships there. And then ship number 3 is the Queen Elizabeth. Now, I'll get to that one later on, but we've got the other 2 ships over here. We've got 3 ships here actually, so it's 6 ships we've got. There's 2 ships there, and then 3, 4, 5 over there, which is not the big ship there, that's just a mock-up. But we've got the ship over here, which I've just done a preview video for, which is the Rotterdam. Once again, another interesting build with using the very handy deck plans. So that's the Rotterdam there, and then this one here, which is the Princess Irene, or the USS Pocahontas, whichever you want to call it. So like I say, there's the 2 big, well, I've got a big ship and a little ship. Those 2 there. So there's the Rotterdam and the Irene. They are for 2020 as well. This ship here is just a mock-up of a ship from Peaky Blinders. It's sort of a cross between Britannic and Aquitania. Slightly configured superstructure and taller funnels and things like that. That's basically all that is. So you don't need to worry about what this ship is. It's just a mock-up which had no purpose other than to just a few screenshots basically. So this will probably be either left to rot or deleted, I don't know, but it depends how much room I've got. And other ship here is the RMS Fremantle, which is a rebuild of my SS or RMS Bittern from, I think, 2014. A fictional ship. So the RMS Fremantle there, once again named after a suburb of Southampton, Fremantle. And that's that build there. So that's another ship for 2020. And the last one, which I think will be ship number 3 in the list of 2020 builds, will be the Queen Elizabeth. Now that is a big build, and that is all the way over by the Kaiser Wilhelm de Grosse. So I've got to fly all the way back now. I didn't want to, but there we go. So let's just fly between the Britannic and the Lusitania, the 2 new builds, which will be for 2020. Man, we're going to try and find where the Queen Elizabeth is. Could just do a jump cut, but there you go. I can't be asked to do that. So where are we? There's the United States. There's the cow shot tug. I just wish I could fly a bit faster, but there you go. In Minecraft Classic, you could fly miles and really quickly, but in this game you cannot. But no big deal. Just fly over the United States, past the Queen Elizabeth II. In the distance is the remnants of the which will be another 2020 build, which I believe is over there. There it is. There's the bow of the the Queen Elizabeth. And like I said, that's another big build. That would be the biggest build I have so far. That's comparable to or it's basically the same length and width as the Queen Mary, which I'd done in 2018. So this is the sister ship to the Queen Mary, and it's going to be a build like that. So it's going to be a big build, and this will be, I think, the third ship of 2020. I can't guarantee that, but I'll try and do my best. And yeah, so that's the Queen Elizabeth there. I just checked the stern to make sure Jenny's not put the face on the back. I just want to make sure of that. And yeah, the face is gone, so that's fine. She's not put it back. So that's pretty much it. I haven't really got anything else to say. We've got all the ships reviewed and a review of 2019. I'm just hoping that 2020 will be a happier year. I know we've got the new copper rules, the new YouTube rules and all that bullshit, and also the mass demonetization. I have had a few videos demonetized for no reason other than apparently they are too violent. But apparently, violence in Minecraft videos is very rare in me. I didn't know that a tutorial about building the Carpathia was violent, and but they demonetized it, and I think that's going to be the way for the future. Videos are just going to be demonetized for no fucking reason. But there you go. But I do this for the love of it. I do this for my fans, my friends, and I do this for a bit of money as well. I will admit I do this for profit, but there you go. But the way monetization is going, I'm just going to have to skip and move on to Patreon. But I do have a Patreon account if you do want to follow that one. I will say what other people say. $1 a month from a few subscribers will go a long way. I would appreciate it if you do feel the need to support me in that way. I'm not going to demand it or beg it. I'm just saying, if you do feel the need to donate a few dollars or at least $1 a month to Patreon for me, then it will go and it'll be appreciated. Just keep me going. I do need to invest in some new hardware because this computer is getting a bit old now. But there you go. But like I say, it's just something that will, help pay a few bills and keep me going. It gives me enthusiasm to do it. So like I say, if you do feel the need to bung me a few quid on Patreon, then by all means do so. It's entirely up to you. But I don't know where I'm flying to. I'm just flying at random here. I think we'll go back to the QE2 because that was my favourite big build of the year. And like I say, if you do feel the need, then just do so. I think I do link it on most of my channels anyway. But there we go. So like I say, that's pretty much it for 2019. It is nearly Christmas Eve. It's the 23rd of December today, so if I don't see you or speak to you before then, and Merry Christmas, and try and have a Happy New Year. At least I'm going to try and do. I'll have a few beers and a couple of shots of brandy in a minute, and that'll tide me over until work in the morning and hangover time, I suppose. But I'll end this video looking at the QE2, the beauty that it is, and we'll call it there. So like I say, it's nearly Christmas, so this is Rich signing off, logging off, disappearing. Happy Christmas and all that, and I shall return hopefully in 2020. So yeah, bye for now.